Today we are at UNLV meeting with Dr. Miguel Gonzales. Please tell us about what you teach and why you teach.
Okay, well, I'm an associate professor in the Educational Policy and Leadership program here at UNLV.
Okay.
And I've been here for about 7.5 years now. And I mainly teach courses on educational leadership, as our program indicates. I teach anything from introduction to leadership and organizational culture to entrepreneurship and innovation and digital leadership. In the master's program, they're mostly teachers.
Okay.
Right? Occasionally we'll have a couple of counselors, school counselors, or instructional coaches, but they're all aspiring to get the master's degree in leadership and policy and an administrative endorsement. So once you graduate, you upload your transcripts to the Department of Ed here in Nevada, and then you qualify for the administrative endorsement to become an administrator here. In the doc program, most of our students are administrators.
Wow.
And so principals, assistant principals, and they're looking to just advance their careers, whether it be district office administration, superintendency, or nonprofit type of work.
And what brings you joy? That's a heck of a position you have, a heck of an influence you have over such crucial, essential people of our community that has a great ripple effect to our youth, our children.
Yeah, not only children, but retired teenagers. And so what I mean by that is adults. Right?
Retired teenagers, adults, okay.
Yeah, retired teenagers, that's how I refer adults in my class, because I'm a self-proclaimed retired teenager. I read that I don't remember where I read it. Some author said that, and I thought, hey, I'm going to take that too.
I'm going to take that.
I don't remember where I saw it somewhere. And that's kind of the challenge too. They're so used to teaching and inspiring minors, right, that sometimes they feel uncomfortable talking to adults or retired teenagers, right? So I try to help them understand that that's part of the leadership development process, is trying to teach, instruct, and inspire adults as well, right? Because we know a lot of times adults or kids aren't the problem, and sometimes adults just don't know how to manage conflict or learn certain things. So.
Conflict resolution.
Sure.
What do you say will be like the number one challenges that these aspiring leaders, I mean, some of them are already leaders, and but in terms of your students, the people you mentor and you guide and you provide this wonderful curriculum, what will be the number one challenge that they face in our society today?
Well, I think it's a couple of things here. If I look at it from a very personalized, individualized perspective, I think one of the challenges or theme across the different cohorts of students is a lot of them lack confidence and faith in themselves.
Oh, in themselves.
Yeah. So somebody at their school campus left them a flyer or encouraged them to apply, and I just had a class last week, and I said, you got to give yourself credit for taking the courage to even apply to the program. Because a lot of people think, I don't know if I can do this, or I'm shocked that somebody would consider me. Or you get another extreme where it's like, man, if this person can lead, then I can do a much better job, right?
Okay, yeah.
But I've seen that a lot of students have come to me in private, especially a lot of Hispanic students, because they confided in me about not really having representation or like a Hispanic professor or leader, and they kind of expressed that doubt, right? And so I always tell them, look, you're gonna have to develop courage, right? Like especially if you're going into leadership. Like most people already know what they need to work on.
Oh, okay.
All right, secretly. Right? Most of my students already know, like, I have trouble with this or that.
Okay.
It might be like knowledge
Okay.
or courage or speaking up, etc. It's just a matter of willingness at that point. Like, am I willing to feel uncomfortable in order for me to grow and develop as a leader?
The work that needs to get put
The
in.
individual work, right?
Yeah.
The inner work, and that's what I try to focus on, because then I can equip you with the research, with the strategies about how to use the right lens to understand and describe what's going on within your organization, right? Like, you can have the definitions and the strategies to help you navigate organizational culture. Like, that can be provided, that can be taught. But if you don't have the courage to challenge the status quo, the courage to feel uncomfortable and to develop yourself, then it's like, well, then you're never going to get to that point. Right? And so I try to balance both of them. Like, okay, I'm going to try to give you that inner talk. Like, I might come in and say, look, you need to do this. And then also you need to recognize what's happening around you. One of my themes in teaching would be to be the first, right? And so I try to encourage, try to really leave a legacy of encouragement, saying it's good, it's needed to be a good, effective leader. Like, that's important, but if we're trying to make dynamic changes to our education system or in the lives of people, you have to be the first, right? Like, the first to try something, the first to do something that nobody else has attempted to do and actually accomplish it. So it's a combination of those two, right? And so I always encourage all my students, and I think they get tired of me saying that, but it's just my motto, right? Like, be the first, right? No one's done this before in your family. Be the first. No one's done this before at your school. Be the first to do it, right? You're building your own school, like, be the first to do that, right? So you're kind of embodying that message already with the work that you're doing.
And believe me, I hear Dr. Gonzalez's voice. Be the first. Throughout this unfolding establishment of Academy of Universal Metaphysics, be the first. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I definitely took that from your class and your teachings.
Well, thank you.
What inspired you to be that energy behind that particular inspiration of be the first?
Well, I think it's a couple things. One is growing up, I felt, especially when I graduated from high school, I felt like I got cheated out of an education. I went to Title I schools and ended up going to a community college and really remedial courses taken in community colleges, and I just strongly felt that my educational experience, and I take responsibility, because you should take ownership of your educational experience, but at the same time, like, I truly felt like I got cheated out of a genuine schooling experience, because I didn't know that there were other opportunities and options and ways of learning available. It was very 90s urban type of schooling.
One type fits all type of.
Well, I mean, and we were, a high needs school, and we just kind of, we embraced that negative identity that we had in the community, right? And so there was no way that I was going to put, or I can't say any of the teachers really inspired me to reach a different level, because it was just more like those kids, or I actually went back and taught at the high school I graduated from, and some of the teachers were even surprised I went to college. And I wasn't a bad kid.
Expectation was so low.
Expectations were low, right? Very high Hispanic school, like majority Hispanic. It's just kind of the ghetto mentality, just embracing that, like. And so I didn't know any different. Like, I had no clue. I had no clue. And so when I just matured a little bit and went to a community college, I realized, like, you know what? You know, I didn't do my part, but at the same time, like, what was offered to me wasn't the best quality. Right? So I really felt like I got cheated out of an education. And so that was partly one of the reasons why I was ignited, so to speak, right, to just go into education. My dad actually felt the same way, and he became a teacher. Univision did a special on me a couple of years ago. Not a special, but they wrote an article about my experience.
Okay.
And so kind of sharing that with you. And he ended up being a teacher, but he went to college like when I started, or he was finishing college when I started college, right? So,
I see.
And so he became a teacher and taught at a middle school, again, like very high need school, heavy Hispanic population. I don't know, I just went into it, I was like, you know, forget this. Like, I want at least go back to my alma mater and like, I'm gonna at least disrupt something.
Disrupt something. Disruptive innovator.
Disrupt something.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want them to experience the same thing I did.
Wow.
Right? And so coming into UNLV, and like that still was part of me, and knowing my own philosophies and my own values about myself, my faith, and just what I want to disrupt and change in education, and that was just a combination. So that I'm making this longer than what it should be, but that was just a combination of when I go in, like I am going to give you more, because as an instructor, professor, or teacher, like it's not enough to just give you information. Like I have to give you me.
I love that.
Right? I have to give you me, and so I'm going to do what I can to help inspire you to at least see the vision within yourself, and then also know that there's so much more. You just gotta take that courage, right? And make that jump.
Wow. Very heart-centered teacher right here. And I felt it when I was your student. I will always forever be your student.
Sure, thank you.
UNLV is so blessed to have you.
Wow.
Your students
I'm lucky
are
to be here.
so blessed to have you. And it goes both ways, and you recognize that, and that's so beautiful. And I'm grateful, and I know I speak in behalf of so many I don't know, but I know that they're grateful that you are in position to give them that inspiration and that guidance.
Thank you.
Yeah. Last time I was here in this room, behind this beautiful bookshelf, was December 6th.
Yeah.
December 6th. I wanted to pay Dr. Gonzales a visit to say hello and to thank him for the courage he has instilled in me for me to be the first to establish this Academy of Universal Metaphysics, and also invite him to kind of embark on the journey together, as I asked if you could occasionally fill me in on the climate and the temperature of your students as they are aspiring to become leaders of our community. And I just wanted that conversation and touch base with a wonderful teacher. And you invited me onto campus, and we met right here, right here. And I remember specifically talking about some of the hostilities and negativities that we educators have to deal with in our current reality that we share. And one of it was school shooting and violence, and we were literally talking about that. And then you saw something on your phone.
Yeah, so December 6th is when we had the shooting here at UNLV, at the campus, and you were my only appointment that day. And I had debated that whole week to call you and say, let's just do it on Zoom. And my wife had told me, just go in person.
Really? It was your wife
Yeah,
who encouraged you? Just go in person.
Just go in person. You haven't seen the student in a while, and she's eager to share her ideas with you regarding her vision for her school. Just go.
Wow.
And I said, okay, I'll just go.
Okay.
So, your audience probably doesn't know this, but when I had you as a student, I didn't even see you in person.
No, you're right. We were online.
It was during the pandemic, so it was all Zoom.
You're right. So December 6th was the first time we actually met in person.
It was the first time we met in person.
That's right.
And so the phone, my office phone, an alarm set off, and I didn't know what it was. And so I heard some rumbling in the hallways here. And so when I came out, some of my colleagues were yelling across the hallway saying there's an active shooter on campus. And it didn't hit me until I came back into the office, and then there was a message on the office phone, which I took pictures of. I still have the pictures, all the messages on that.
Yeah.
We should have taken pictures that day. But it did say there was an active shooter, and
it was run, hide, fight. This is not a drill.
This is not a drill. And so
we're like,
for a split second, I thought about the fight stuff or run or whatever, but I thought, wait a second, I have a student with me. Right? I have a student with me. This is all a split second, right? And so everybody was slamming the doors shut, and I said, okay,
shelter in place.
Let's just shelter in place, and let's see what's going on. And then I had no cell phone reception the entire time.
Yes.
That I do remember, just kind of rewinding here, I remember hearing gunshots. I don't know if you remember hearing
gunshots.
I do. Okay, yeah, I heard gunshots, and then
I remember looking at each other like, and we didn't say a word, but we looked at each other and we were like, oh my gosh.
It's real.
This is real.
This is real. So I heard gunshots, and then what happened was I ran to the window here, and then I heard a lot of people run or screaming, and I saw a bunch of students running away. And that's where the thought came, like, I can't run because I don't know where this person is. I don't know if we run together, who knows? Yeah. And so shelter in place, and I didn't have any reception, and I wanted to find out what the heck was going on, and so I went on Google Chat to talk to colleagues that were sheltering in place in their offices, and I logged on to Twitter, which was probably a mistake because we learned that the information on Twitter was not accurate. After a while going on the Twitter, we realized that, or it was indicating that there was multiple shooters on campus, which really got us worried. We didn't know. One was down and they were looking for others, and I thought, man, we're going to be here for a while. And I think I remember talking about if we do hear somebody in the hallway, this is what we do. We're going to throw this bookshelf
over,
throw it in front of the door,
stay low, away from the window, all that stuff that we educators are unfortunately trained.
It was sad to have that. We had to have that conversation. If we hear the shooter or the shooters come up, this is what we will do. We had to have that conversation first, and maybe we should have thrown the shell first, or I don't know. I've never been into this experience. It was our
first time, and the last time, hopefully. Last time, no one ever should have to go through that. The danger has subsided, right? And they have taken care of taking out a soul to prevent from other souls being taken out. Unfortunately, we have lost 3. You have lost 3 of your colleagues in the business building area, which is right next to this building. That's why we heard what we heard, being so close to the unfortunate situation. But many students and faculties had to deal with that trauma.
Yeah.
And we knew in this room, like, oh my goodness, this has begun this healing process of how do we come out of this horrific, unfortunate, just terrifying situation. Some people were so much closer to that danger. We were very fortunate that we were protected by these walls in this building, and survived to tell the tale.
That's correct.
To come out of it wiser.
That's correct.
So.
Yeah, and it was just a surreal experience because I remember I had to go to the bathroom.
But you didn't. We stayed in here.
No, but I did.
Oh, did you?
I heard people outside.
Oh, that's right. This was towards the end.
This was towards the end. I don't know why I'm sharing this information.
Yeah,
but
he had to go because we're humans. We have to go.
We had to go.
When nature calls.
I heard the bathroom door open. And I thought, okay, some of my colleagues are going because
So if they're going, I'm gonna go too. So yeah, you went.
I went, and I just remember I said, I'm closing the door. I'm not gonna knock on the door when I get back. I'm just gonna open the key fast.
Okay, and come back in.
Because you don't know. We didn't know yet, right? And it was just so.
I think I went after you. We took turns.
I think you did afterwards.
And then I went too.
And so it was just eerie to see how silent the building was. And just to run there and back, because I was hearing voices around the building. And I thought, well, I don't know. I don't want to come out of the bathroom and somebody come out. And even if it is FBI or SWAT. Right? And so.
I don't want no one to know that I'm using the bathroom right now.
Well, I don't, hey, they might call me out, freeze, hands up. I'm like, hey, I don't know. So, but after a while, after we took turns or whatever, I saw outside that they had surrounded the building. Yeah. And so people started opening up their doors and just talking about the experience. Yeah. And then the door slammed here by the stairs. And it was FBI, does anybody need help? It was a loud voice, and he and some other guys just came out, pointing at us, hands up. We were just, okay. And we walked down the stairs, and a bunch of armed people, and then I could see through the doors too, the hallway doors, the windows, that they were there looking at every classroom. And then to see a lot of my colleagues out in the field, and then just, I don't know why, but they walked us right in front of the incident where everything happened. I don't know if you remember that. Kind of. Yeah, instead of taking us the back way, they took us right, we turned right in front of the building. Yeah. And I thought, that's so strange. So obviously I had to look. I'm looking, and
I don't remember seeing anything though.
I don't remember. I want to say I saw something, but who knows, right? My memory, all that was just
adrenaline.
Correct. And then we went to the Thomas and Mack Center. Yeah. Waited there for a while. Yeah. Nothing happened, and I just remember trying to walk around campus to find my car. Yeah. Walked there with a colleague. Didn't let us in. Yeah. And then I walked back, and then I crossed the street and sat on the cement parking lot of CVS. Sat there on the CVS parking lot floor, and one of my colleagues from a different department was there. And finally I get cell phone reception. And so all these texts, well, not some texts, because a week later I got everybody's text. Yeah. As weird as that is, but wives calling, parents are calling, people are calling me now, and then my colleague there was she saw me and she said, hey, my dad's coming to pick me up, and my husband, we'll just give you a ride home, don't worry about it, because my wife was going to pick me up, it was going to take her an hour to get here for all the traffic.
They shut down a lot of the street that was that came to UNLV. A lot of the streets were closed,
and the ones that were open were just full of traffic and backed up for miles.
It was crazy.
And so I called her and said, don't worry, I got my colleague picking me up. And I still remember the car rolled up and it was a Porsche.
Oh, okay.
It was a Porsche.
It was a Porsche. You got to ride from.
So yeah, so I pulled up a Porsche. I got off the floor, the parking lot floor. And I thought, what a bizarre day.
Yeah.
Yeah. After a couple of days, or I would say a couple of weeks, it took me a while to absorb and kind of comprehend what had just happened. I didn't see the shooting, but I heard it. Right? And anytime you get a gun pointed at you, even for safety, and knowing what had happened prior, you know, it still plays with your psyche, your emotions, because none of this should happen on any type of campus or building or anything. So
yeah.
But it happened, and the only thing you could do is learn from it. And that was one of the things I remember sitting in this office. I looked at you and I said, okay, what do we tell our students and what do you tell your staff right, about this experience? We have to take this experience and make sure we find some hidden gems to share, to give away, so to speak, to our students, so that they can understand what we went through, and also understand that even in the midst of adversity, there's still going to be hope. Right? And so again, going back to the philosophy and my values, and like you want to instill that with people. So everything got postponed.
Yeah.
But I came back.
You came back.
I came back maybe 2 weeks afterwards.
2 weeks. Okay.
And I just came back just to kind of, I don't know, I just thought it would be a good part of me kind of healing process for me to come back here as soon as possible, to normalize, I guess, myself. And I stood in front of the College of Business building for a while and just sat there. No, I did that intentionally. Like I walked, there was already murals and flowers all over campus, and I went to all of them because I whatever I fear, I try to confront. And so if I was uncomfortable with that thought, or just going back to campus, I knew that one way to overcome it. And this is my own opinion. I don't know if it's
everybody has their own healing, but what did you do to heal? Yes.
No, I literally went and visited the spots on campus.
On campus.
Yeah. You know, like I had to face it. You know, and that was a way for me to just regroup. You know, and just say, look, this happened, and I want to move forward with it, even though it's part of my life now. It's part of my experience, you know. But I can face it and share my experience to others.
And when the semester began, you had your students, your classes, started again.
Yeah.
And you did share.
Yes. So when we talked about having this be a teachable moment in my office during, I don't know what you want to call that. It wasn't lockdown. I guess it was a lockdown. Run, fight. And,
we were in shelter in place.
Shelter in place, yes.
Shelter in place. We had some intense conversation, yes. And you...
Yes, so I honestly, I did not expect you to literally write out an email. I thought that was great. Right? Like when you literally emailed me and said, this is teachable moments that I learned in our discussion. I thought, wow, okay. You know, long, thoughtful, deep, and
I remember addressing the mind, body,
Correct.
heart,
That's
and
correct.
spirit. Kind of like, you're the one who chat, like, what would you, if this was to happen in your academy, what would you say to your faculty? What would you say to your students, right? So I'm
Right.
like, okay, well, we're holistic education of mind, body, heart, and spirit. And it really allowed me to focus my everything on how do I digest this? How do I heal from this? And how do I
Right.
share it, right? That teachable moment. So again, he's good about putting mirror in front of you're so good at that. So I went back home and I put the mirror in front of my face, and it's like, yeah, well, what does this mean to me? And what does this mean to my students and my colleagues? And what would I say? What would I do? And what part of the energetic experience I would emphasize? And so I wrote a reflection and I emailed it to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and I really appreciated that. Unexpected, and I thought that that experience and that discussion in this office was more than just what if this happens again. It was about teaching others about the process of healing and or thinking during crisis.
Yes, in the midst of adversity.
In the midst of adversity.
Mm-hmm.
And so in one of my classes that I teach, the Intro to Leadership class, it's the first class that the master's students take.
Okay.
And I've had the privilege of teaching that class a lot.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm teaching it this semester.
Okay.
And so all those students are beginning this new journey of school leadership or school administration, learning about organizational culture, or just leadership in general, and they're unsure about this journey and do I really want to do this, etc. And so it's an 8-week course, and at the end of the course I have everybody sit down in a circle and I ask them to share 2 questions, which is part of their reflection assignment. And I just say, you can share what you wrote in the reflection, or you can share something differently.
Okay.
And there's just 2 simple questions. What did you learn about yourself during this process in the class? And anything that resonated with you. And so sometimes they'll talk about some theories, and sometimes they'll talk about self-development. And most of the time it's about self-development. And so I took that opportunity to then share with them what we learned together during that experience. And so a lot of the students, that kind of set the tone, I think, for that
discussion.
That discussion,
Yeah.
because the students were just in awe. Like, a lot of them didn't know that I was here on campus, because they were the brand new cohort. And it just really set a tone of just self-reflection, reverence, if I could say that word, and just knowing that we're human beings. We have our struggles just like everybody else. But I think if you try to learn from it as much as possible, people will respect that. And I think there's a little bit of admiration in the sense that, hey, this person is just like me, but they were able to accomplish this, or they were able to overcome this thing, right? There's hope for me if that person can do it. You know what I'm saying?
And I think one of the teachable moments and the reflection that we shared together, one that comes to mind very distinctively, is to how to be in the present in the midst of adversity.
Sure.
Because a lot of the times, like, we felt it, through Twitters and different conversation that was coming through the noise outside, like your imagination, your assumption, your fear would take you in different, exaggerate things, amplifies things
There you go.
in the negative sometimes more so than decelerating the situation. It escalate the negativity sometimes when the panic or your thoughts, right? Your thoughts, you have to be very mindful of your thoughts during crisis, because if you fill it with assumptions, multiple shooters or this or that, or oh my gosh, what if this and this and that, then we may put ourselves in a state where we're not present with our current situation that could actually help us make sound decisions, quick but sound decision for our safety or the safety of others. So we kind of learn to really be in the moment. I really felt that when we're like, wow, look at all these like information that's coming that is so not accurate or completely exaggerated, in the area that didn't need exaggeration. I remember that was part of my reflection, and to be in the moment, to be present with our thoughts, with our feeling. How are we feeling? We kept asking each other, how are you feeling? How are you doing? How are you feeling? We talked about our feelings during that 5 hours we were together, because feeling matters, and feeling scared is very natural in a time of crisis.
Right.
But we kept we kept ourselves very calm. We were very calm, and kept on checking up on each other. And physically, we were mindful of our physical ability to respond, whether to move something heavy or to stay low on the ground, or physically we had to be aware of our ability, right? Are we getting thirsty? Do we need to use the bathroom? Are we getting hungry? Is our muscle getting tight? And then just spiritually, where are we at in a time of crisis?
Right.
And I remember making a list of gratitude list, like I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that, even in the midst of crisis, to be grateful that you're in this position, that you can direct your attention to gratitude, because that raises the field, the energetic field, to the more in the positive energy than the negative, to really help minimize the adversity as much as possible.
Correct.
Because we can't completely eliminate it. That's not the world that we live in.
Correct.
We live in duality. We're going to experience the extreme of both spectrum.
Right.
But how do we respond?
Right.
Right. Not react, but how do we respond to those extremes? And that was put to test with you and I in this room.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to understanding who you are, establishing within yourself your values, establishing an anchor of expectations, of values, of faith, and all that gets tested obviously during times of adversity, right? And
service to others.
Service to others, and that's what guided me. I have faith in Jesus Christ. Remember the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, we talked about that, and that was an anchor for me to know that everything was going to be fine. And I had values, I had principles that I lived by, and knowing that brings calmness to you. And we say this with some ease, because you and I have already established those values after years of like internal work.
That's right.
Right? And so a lot of people are kind of on the fence because they really haven't thought about values. And so that's another thing that I stress as well, right? Like you have to understand yourself and to create that anchor, you really have to decide what are your true values.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
And I think wonderful thing that we can do as facilitators of educators is that bringing that awareness to the interconnectedness of all things, right?
Yeah.
You and I, us to the earth,
Yeah.
right? Us to our environment, to someone else, even if that someone else is a threat to us. If you see this world that we're energetically interconnected and interdependent on one another, then compassion, values like service to others, just surface naturally.
Yeah.
Because you're just another reflection of me, right? And my words, my thoughts, my feeling has an implication on you.
Correct.
Therefore, you take responsibility to how we present ourselves, how we show up in the world. And from that higher purpose is what you're talking about. The higher purpose is what grounds us, right?
Yeah.
That anchors us.
You have to establish that, though. You can only use the borrowed principles from other people
That's
for
right.
so long.
It has to be you. It has to be your truth.
Yeah, like if you, let's just say, for example, some of my students, like they're not sure about some values, or they've never really thought about it, but they like some of the stuff that's been taught in class, or they see something. So it's like, okay, hang on to that for a while.
Okay.
Hang on to it. Let use that as a tool to start building your own foundation.
That's right.
Because then eventually you're going to be tested, whether it be in a crisis moment like we experience, or in a school leadership circumstance, like where you're by yourself and you don't have the professor, or you don't have a colleague, right? But you can say, look, I've worked on this, I've established, I understand my values, my principles. It's now an anchor, it's solid now. And so that's what I was trying to allude to earlier, was like, you and I have that established, and now it's like, let's help other people establish that higher purpose or their own values, because they don't know. And some people come into the program, for example, and they don't know that they need to know that. Right? I didn't know I have to establish my own values. Well, it's a reflection of how you act, right? It's a reflection of the school culture you're going to be influencing. And so if you don't know, then how do you conduct yourself and influence other people?
That's right. That's, that sense of responsibility. That's so powerful.
Right, but you and I have that responsibility to say, okay, if you don't know, I'm not going to shun you or say, no, you're not there.
Not.
Borrow.
That's right.
Borrow from somebody that you admire, that you secretly admire. Or you say, look, I know, I think this is good.
Yes.
Let me borrow this and let me work on it.
That's right. Reset that. And you know what? When you reach a certain growth, if you say, they say, teacher appear when the student is ready. Teacher disappear when the student is truly ready. There's a Chinese proverb there, but when you reach a certain state of spiritual growth, if you will, or spiritual understanding of your purpose in this dimension, if you will, you're ready to be the model, to be the example, and be the inspiration that the others would find resonance with.
Yeah. And
from there, we can help them build their platform, their foundation, so they can anchor themselves.
That's correct.
Each and every one of us have that authentic gift, that our own fingerprint, footprint, our imprint.
Correct.
Right? And though you are my reflection, there's only you can do. That's so much better than anybody else, and we all have that gift, right? So it's that dance, it's that acknowledgement of the dance of, hey, we're in this together. We are one. That's that unity consciousness that I always embrace and see in the world. Yet we are also authentically unique, and we have our own light, our own inspiration to ignite and to shine and vibrate in this world, to elevate it to a new a new level. So it's that it's that rhythm of the individual as a leader. To lead a school culture, you have to come back to the individual, so that can go back to the whole. It's that breathing.
And it's not just leading schools. I mean, leading families, leading communities.
That's right.
And I think it was Picasso, right? The painter.
Yeah.
He said something to this extent. I'm not quoting exactly, but something like the significance of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away.
Ooh.
Something like that. You may Google me. And
yeah, but
right?
that's so true.
And so your role, our role is to help you find that gift. And then once you find that gift, it's your responsibility now to give it to somebody else. And that gift could very well be something as simple and profound as love. You don't necessarily hear that in a leadership development preparation environment, but it is talked about.
It's becoming more and more common. And people are talking about heart and love and emotion. Yeah. I call emotion our spiritual nervous system.
Yeah, and that's the essence of leadership. You're giving yourself, you're giving your gift to the community, to the teachers, to the students. But that process begins again with establishing what you value most. And so maybe your gift is I help you establish that. All right, I'm going to help you establish that, and you have this new profound love for learning or making changes or leading people. Like I love leading people or love inspiring people to be their best selves. Right? And you give that away.
Yeah.
You give that away, but there's a step before that, like Picasso said, you gotta find it.
You gotta find it.
You gotta find it, and that find implies like effort, sweat, work.
There's work involved.
Right? There's work involved, and so maybe you already know what the gift is, you just have to refine it. Yeah. Right? You just gotta refine it, further develop it, and then once it's there, toma. All right, here's the gift. Here you go.
I love that. Oh my gosh. So inspirational, and I just feel so truly blessed to be alive and to be able to be where I'm at and to keep sharing the gift and the wisdom and the love to this world, to our community. And feel super blessed to know wonderful, wonderful educators in our community right here in Las Vegas, Nevada, our Sin City. I mean, it's going to be known as Heart City pretty soon. I don't know. That's my goal, my vision. Las Vegas has a reputation for fun, play, games, and sports. Yeah, well, we have holistic education too, of mind, body, heart, and spirit. So.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. And thank you for sharing this sacred space.
Thank you. Yeah. I like that. Sacred space.
Sacred space. Yeah. All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.